Hey guys, it's Em, and today we gotta talk about Garuda, a character from a spin-off HNK manga. At first, honestly, I didn't care for him at all, and I wasn't even gonna make a video on him or anything related to him, until I turned my game sounds up and I hear this. They got my man Jotaro/Daisuke Ono to voice Garuda. This is literally the only reason I became interested in this character at all. So I went to go play his event, which summarizes and goes over what happens in the spin-off manga he's from, and it's not great. I know I didn't mention this video in the list I gave in my update video, but it caught me so off guard how this manga is written that I thought it'd be a needed detour. Now, what's wrong with Garuda and his manga? I thought instead of me just flapping my gums about it, I thought we could go over it together so we can all come to our own conclusions. But before we start, since I'm going to be summarizing a lot of what happens, let me give you a quick rundown of Garuda himself. He's a forgotten star, similar to Ryuga with his own fighting style. He has some personal beef with the Nanto General and is apparently really strong. Perhaps a little bit too strong. His design is very HNK2-esque. You can definitely tell he's a spin-off character. As compared to everyone else in HNK1, he doesn't really fit, especially with all the colors that come out of his character. There are a few other things I want to talk about for this character in manga, but we're gonna have to get into the story for that, so without further ado, let's get right into Garuda's manga. We start off with Garuda beating up some of Keno's forces and we get his design partially revealed to us. We then find out that he wants to defeat the Nanto General because she didn't help his mother or his people. As a motivation, it's okay. I didn't really mind it. It's a bit edgy, but I can accept it. We're then told he's wandering around trying to find the last Nanto General's base as his map appears to not work. How did he get a map to the last Nanto General, you may be asking? Well, while he's walking around it cuts to him getting the map from Oigar that appears blank, like I said earlier. Remember this, because we're gonna come back to this very soon. Oigar, one of Ro's forces, had a map to the Nanto General. One we can presume they've had for a while. Just write that down in your little notebook. Going back to him in the present, he walks around angsty for a while until he runs into Yuza, who's casually pissing off of a balcony and was apparently just trying to piss on him for some reason. Oh, Yuza.
You're a fucking asshole.
Yuza teases Garuda for a bit and then they fight before Yuza just kind of memes out of the way and leaves Garuda. Garuda gets frustrated and for some reason looks down at his map and he notices it leads directly to the Nanto General's tower. How is this map not blank now, you may be asking? Well, he's standing under the one hole in the roof while the star of the compassionate mother shines down on his map, of course.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yes, Gary Stu over here, through a heap of plot convenience, stumbled upon the location of the Nanto General. Bullshit. I can't believe that Ro would stumble upon a map to the Nanto General and then not put that thing through every kind of testing imaginable. It's such a random fucking thing to trigger a map. It might as well just be a COD Easter egg. They even acknowledge how bullshit this is. Let alone, I can't ignore that they just made up a MacGuffin for Garuda here to stumble on. I could probably make a whole video about this chapter and how much this part pisses me off alone, but let's continue. So then he just shows up at the Nanto General's fort. No, I didn't cut anything out. He literally just kind of pops up there. And then quickly cuts back and apparently Garuda joined Ro's forces and copy and paste Ryuga's reasons for joining. Even though I really don't think they fit his character at all, but whatever. We got an even bigger problem because we're told that Ro knows that Garuda knows where the Nanto General is. Which is, oh, I don't know, the whole fucking plot of the latter half of HNK1? The story's placement in the timeline is right before Ryuga's arc, as they say that the last Nanto General is the only star of Nanto remaining. So why the fuck does he not rate it right now? Like seriously, this asshole could have skipped 2 arcs if he apparently knew about this early. Why doesn't Ro just come here and go, "That's cute, Garuda. Anyways, move. It's time for the adults to handle things." Or just come with him and destroy everything right now. I simply just don't believe that Ro would just let this slide and leave it to Infinite over here. The worst part about this plot hole in this story is it's entirely unnecessary. Ro is only in 1 page of this manga, and his army doesn't even help Garuda with his raid or show up in any part past this point. So I'm really trying to figure out why the writer even thought it was necessary to mesh Garuda with Keno's army. But whatever, let's just continue. When he reaches, he runs into Huey's army and eventually Huey himself, who I must admit looks pretty cool in this art style. I guess it's time for some Huey action? I admitted in the other video I think Huey was really underused, and I can't wait to see what he does. What the fuck, guys? He insta-claps Huey? Huey gets no damn love in this series. All Heavenly King Garuda over here one-shots him too. I know we have to make Garuda matter, and Huey and canon kinda sucks, but this blue-balled me really hard. Why even make Huey a general? If he fights anyone with a name, he's gonna lose every time, apparently. Also, after he loses, Garuda spares him as he pities the people who serve the Nanto general. The real reason is the writer noticed he can't kill people, as this is technically a prequel, so they had to write a way around it. He then begins killing Huey's army members and everyone else that's not named serving the general, so it's not even an excuse they kept up with, but let's keep going. Rihaku's a bit startled by the fact that some Nanto user's coming after the Nanto general, so he whips open his book of stars that I guess he just has and begins reading. But oh Pog, Shuren's here! I can't wait to see what... Oh, okay, cool, okay. He stalled long enough for Huey to get here. Now he's about to get up. Look at this cool ass panel. I can't wait for it. What the hell? Why are these losers even in this story? They're literally only here to boost egos. Many people I've seen talk about this mention how this is just a repeat of Ro's assault and it's just lazy. Well, that's a part of it. The main issue is Ro was built up to be this ultimate menace, and we've seen his strength time and time again, and we know he's an absolute threat. When it's Garuda, nobody cares. It's just some guy that someone made up to just shit on everybody. It makes them both look even more incompetent than they did when they fought Ro, who absolutely shit on both of them anyways. And it just makes Garuda even more unlikable, because it doesn't even feel like he's really earned the ability for us to think that he's casually shafting these two. We see Shuren sound like a little bit of a bitch, and then we cut to Fudo, who's on his way. He then runs into Yuza, who says he doesn't want to fight for the general anymore, which is the only thing this manga does that doesn't cause more questions than answers. It can somewhat explain why Yuza wasn't with the other Nanto chariots when Ro comes around. I wish it wasn't in this manga in particular, but I think it's only fair to give props when necessary. So Fudo heads there by himself. We then cut to Rihaku finding Garuda's star in the Nanto dictionary, and Garuda feeling sorry for people who serve the general. He eventually stumbles into Rihaku, and after giving an angsty speech, he steps on one of Rihaku's traps. And since Garuda's just the coolest guy ever, he's pretty much unaffected by all of his traps, and even catches himself on the falling floor that worked on Ro. After Garuda gets up, Rihaku prepares to fight. Oh boy, I can't wait to... I'm not gonna use that joke 4 times in a row. To be fair to Rihaku, he actually throws hands unlike the other two. I actually got my hopes up for him to win, as he was landing some real good hits. And in the final panel, I felt like if he pulled his arms up, he could have just cut through Hyo's strife here, but you know. Gotta remember, we aren't reading Rihaku Gaiden, so after all the cool shit he does, Garuda instantly drops him. Just as a note, past this point I can't find a single website that goes past chapter 4 in English, so I'm gonna have to use the summary that they give in H&K Legends, so I'm basically gonna be summarizing a summary for you guys. While Rihaku's on the ground, he tells Garuda his mother wouldn't want him to attack the Nanto general. Garuda gets mad and prepares to kill him, but then Big Cheese Fudo smashes through the door and prepares to fight him, along with Huey and Shuren, who both crawl up to their feet again. Garuda then proceeds to beat all of them at the same time. This is just a fucking joke, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if Ro and Kenshiro stepped in the room right now and Garuda just sneezed on them and they both exploded at this point. Huey and Shuren weren't ever shown to have beaten anyone, but this just makes them look like shit. And as for Fudo, I simply just don't believe he would have lost to Garuda. Anyways, after he dicks the chariots again, Yuria, in a kinda scuffed drawing, pulls out a mask that looks like Garuda's mom's, and apparently his mom trusted Yuria and they were cool with each other. Garuda gets mad, for some reason, and prepares to attack Yuria. He then pulls a Uno reverse card and breaks his own mask and spares Yuria, as he says if he kills her he'd waste his mother's efforts. But he says if things don't change, he'll be back, and then he leaves and is never heard of or mentioned by any of the cast again. And that's the end of the manga. Now that everything's out there, how do I feel about it? I think it suffers from the same problem most of the Gaidens do. How do you make a story important and matter, but at the end of the day make it not matter so it doesn't interfere with the show? Most Gaidens go off on side stories and locations that Kenshiro and the gang have never been to before, so that's relatively fine. But we're going off of characters that already existed. If he fought made up characters like Dewey and Shitrag, it wouldn't have mattered, but using established characters just to have them get destroyed will never make me like a character. If I had to compare it to anything, I compare it to something like Devora. Just making a whole new character, expecting you to believe that they've been there, met these people, and did all these things, but that's just not what happened. The other thing is, unlike most guides that use established characters for prequels and therefore had to tie back into the main story somehow, this one literally had no reason to attempt to do that, so I'm not even sure why they tried to. I also hate how they just made things happen for Garuda. He lucks into the map of the Nanto General. He lucks into Ro not stopping him for some reason. He lucks into also not running into Kenshiro for this whole manga, because honestly, I think he would have made it end really fast. Honestly, it would have been funny if this whole thing happened a bit later. Could you imagine if he announced he was gonna kill Yuri and he looks back and it's just it's just so convenient that everything played out the way it did for him. Too convenient. The whole story really just feels like someone wrote a fanfiction about their OC they thought was cool. It even has all the trademarks of being a fanfiction, as it's short, coincidental, and things don't really make sense when you think about them for more than 5 seconds. Out of the 3 non-canon HNK stories I've read, those being Ray and Jaggy Gaiden, and then this is the worst one. The worst part about that is, I would say both of those are 5 out of 10 stories anyways. I'd put this one at like a 4 or a 3. It doesn't really make any sense, and it doesn't really accomplish anything either. While the other 2 at least gave you something to build onto the characters and establish why they may have acted a certain way, this story doesn't really do that unless you want to count Yuza, who only really got 2 or 3 panels for his plot development. And as a little small nitpick, I don't really think Daisuke Ono's voice fits this character. His voice fits more cool but somewhat mature characters, if that makes sense. I know the Garuda manga creator may be behind why he's voiced by Daisuke, as he thinks that Garuda's just the coolest guy around. Or maybe the game creators just snagged him off the street, but after having read this manga, I imagine he sounds more like Raiden from Metal Gear Revengeance or some voice similar to that. No offense to Raiden or whoever voiced him, as I think Raiden's cool, but he has more of an angsty teen cool voice that I feel would fit Garuda a bit more than Jotaro does. Anyways, that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think, or if you have any differing opinions. We've moved the sub goal since we finished the last one. I'm trying to hit 400 subs by the end of the year, so I'd be grateful if you press that sub button. And with that, I've been M, and I am out.